I just want to begin with this reminder. So, as I said earlier, we are all co-journeyers. I am not the expert of everything, and I'm not here to teach things that you don't already know. We're just here to remember what we already know inwardly. So um, we will we will be remembering and realizing a lot of things that we actually are already communicating with our angels without knowing it. And so yeah, we're all co-journeyers. We're all of equal standing because we're from the same source of creation, same place that we'll return to eventually. And the knowledge and skills that I learned throughout my journey are just that what I will share this afternoon. So if you also have your own experiences, your own knowledge about angels, feel free to share it so that everyone can also benefit from it. So just like any skill, so communicating with our angels is just like a muscle that we also exercise as we try to strengthen it. So this afternoon, I'll give some tips on how we can connect with our angels so that we can practice it in our day-to-day lives. And so yeah, so how did I start my journey, my own journey with the angels? So since I was young, like Karen mentioned, I've been meditating since I was around 5 or 6 because I was the because my mom is on the spiritual path and she taught me when I was young to start meditating. And I guess through meditation I developed a strong sense of intuition. So if you've heard of these clear things like extrasensory stuff like clairvoyance, seeing things that are not physically that we don't usually see with our physical eyes. Um, we have clairsentience or the ability to sense things that are not physical or solid. There's claircognizance or just the inner knowing. You just know. You don't know where it came from you, but you just know there's an inner knowing, and it doesn't come from a book you've read or something like that, but you just know because inwardly you have, for example, downloaded that thing from the divine realm or something. And then there's also clear audience or hearing messages but not with your physical ears. And ano pa ba? I so clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience. Meron ding clairgusta. So you smell things that are not physically there. So, or you can smell energy, the quality of energies. So I don't have all of those. I just had probably claircognizance. I had that strong claircognizance, and then eventually I developed clairsentience, like I can feel. So I haven't reached clairvoyance yet, but yeah, so later on I'll share how you can communicate even with our angels, even without having these things or these gifts or skills awakened yet. So yeah, I had that strong intuition and knowing about things that I just do things based on yeah, intuition and guidance. Like I receive messages, but yeah, like I said, it's not physically audible, and it's not something that others can hear also. So it's things that I just come to know. So for example, when I stayed in Manila for in 2013 for 6 months, I was in West Avenue, and I used to walk like 5 blocks going to the blocks of sa streets going to the MRT. And then I would go there at around 5 a.m. in the morning, and then I would come home in the evening, walk there around 8 or 9 sometimes. But at that time, I wasn't into angelology yet, but I had this instinct that every time I went out of the house, I would invoke on Archangel Michael, because he's known to be, or this angel is known to be, the archangel who's really in charge of protection, protecting you and guiding you, and also healing, clearing things that no longer serve you, and for travel. So I would invoke on him every time I went out, and then thank him every time I came back. So it was like that for 6 months, and nothing ever happened to me. But then when I moved out of that house in West Ave, the partner of my cousin came with us, and that was the first time they went to that area. That night, he was just um he was just standing near in the street waiting for a taxi, and he got hold up. Na-hold up siya. Somebody took his cell phone. So I was so surprised. I was like, I would walk every evening along those streets, but I didn't realize how dangerous that was. I would even use my cell phone sometimes, because I came from Davao, and in Davao we're just used to, being safe. You can take out your cell phone and even leave it in the table in when you're in that coffee shop to reserve your seat, and it will be there when you come back. So I was so surprised. I said, wow. I didn't realize how important and how powerful that thing I was doing was. It actually protected me. I really it was a reminder that, hey, that's a significant part, and you should not take that for granted. So, and then when I started learning more about angels through my friends, like Tina is here. She's the first time I saw angel cards was when I went to Tina's house, and she would read us angel messages, and it usually was so accurate. And whenever I felt confused about something, I would ask her for reading, until eventually I bought my own set of cards, and I read for my friends for free that time, because I wasn't certified yet. But even then, it was so accurate, and I would be so surprised again. I said, "Wow! So this is not just a set of cards for fun I can play with, but it really helps us with divine guidance." And lastly, I realized my connection with the angel, especially with Archangel Michael, recently when I was thinking or remembering about, because my uncle, who's a Franciscan priest, he visited us recently in Tagaytay. So my name is Mariel Andrea. And the reason why I was named Mariel was because I was born on October 2, and my uncle was ordained on that day. And that day, or maybe that week, I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3, that's the feast of Archangel Michael. And then when we were in Davao, we moved several times. And um, in one of the houses we lived in, our address was St. Michael's Village. And then in the other village that we moved to, the village name was different, but the feast saint for that village was Archangel Michael. And there were so many other experiences that really like solidified or really made me sure or affirm. It affirmed my connection with working with the angels and with Archangel Michael. And another, okay, yeah, okay. So we honored and acknowledged everyone again. So this honoring and acknowledging their presence is very important because the angels are always there. They're actually waiting on us to invoke for their help. But because we have the greatest gift ever given, we have the gift of free will, they cannot intercede unless we ask for help. So that's, and another priest friend of mine had this experience. He's an Augustinian priest. He told us his personal experience that affirms this. He was giving mass one day, and as he was raising the host, yung, di ba yung ostia, before the communion, it's the Eucharist, blessing of the Eucharist, consecration of the Eucharist. He saw in peripheral vision, it's as if the walls of the church came down. And instead of people in front of him, he had the vision that a legion of angels were in front of him, kneeling down and just holding their swords and their shields and doing like that to. And then he asked, "What's the message that you want me to know or hear?" And the message that came to him was that we are just here, we're ready. It's like basically they're just waiting and always ready um, to go for battle or wherever we may ask support for. They're just there. So that was very powerful because even they were there during the mass and they're just really waiting for a command. And another important thing that I want to emphasize is the power of words. So whenever we speak or whenever we pray, whatever we pray for, don't take that for granted because our words are very powerful. It can really manifest, especially if we're in the right space, when we're aligned with our true purpose, with our true nature, and with the divine. And yeah, there are a lot of ways to stay connected and to strengthen that connection with the divine. And I'll share some of those later. So, oops, here. Okay, so now let's go to the first activity because we're talking about angels. And like I said earlier, I'm sure a lot of the things I'll share are things you already know that you might have just dismissed or that you may just have taken for granted because it came for so naturally, or you just or you felt like you felt doubtful if it was really the angels or yeah, or something, or that you had really have the ability to connect with them because in mainstream education where we learn to put more emphasis on materialist science. For example, whatever we can measure, whatever we can experiment on, what we can perceive with our five senses are the only thing that's true. So we tend to doubt anything that we perceive outside of our five senses. But now we are going to try and recall and acknowledge these times when we actually already encountered or communicated with our angels. So you can bring out your art materials. and I'll play some music. And while you're reflecting, try to recall instances when, for example, you were saved from impending danger because of signs you received, or just an inner knowing, or physical or actual people who warned you who you don't even know, or other experiences that may seem to be a coincidence, but they're actually orchestrated by the ones protecting you. So yeah, try to think about these experiences. It can be one or more, and try to think of a symbol for that and draw that in your paper, on your paper. Okay, so I'll play some music. Okay. Time's up. So now, may I ask for anyone who's brave enough to share? So we'll just ask for one volunteer so that at least we get an idea about what your experiences are. So Garima, hi Garima, welcome, joining us from India. So would you like to share? I think you're on mute. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Um, you want me to share the experiences with angels, like if I ever had?
Yeah, sure. First your symbol, and if you had several, at least maybe the most most significant for you. Wow. Cool. And can you share one of those experiences?
Uh, yes. I was not able to connect to a friend of mine from many months, and I badly needed to connect. And uh, even we had no. I didn't have the phone number of that friend also because uh, matlab, uh, she had moved to another city and all. Then I invoked to Archangel Gabriel, and I asked him to convey my message to my friend that I'm missing her badly and would love to connect. And amazingly, it so happened he not in more than 2 hours, I really had a message, and that was really amazing for me. I'm so thankful to the angels who work with all of us, who work with who work with all of us to make our lives better and happy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Garimal, for sharing.
Thank you.
Wow. So that's another affirmation that we actually can immediately connect, and if ever we need assistance with someone, a particular person, we can ask their guardian angel to give them hints and signs or give them urges. So, for example, um, yeah, that's one of the things I learned from a friend who's into anthroposophy. For example, there was one time I was having um, a problem or challenges with a particular person, and we were in that space when I cannot confront the person yet, but it was really bothering me. The issue was really bothering me. So this friend of mine, she advised me, you ask his guardian angel
Welcome.
to help you connect with him. And yeah, so true enough, I think several days after that, something happened. It was totally unplanned, and we met, and he was ready to talk at that time. So the angels work like that, so we can easily connect with them. The moment we think of them, we mention them, we ask for help, they immediately respond. So you might be wondering, we have free will, right? So how about if there's a person who really needs help, but you feel that person is not yet capable physically, emotionally, mentally to ask for divine guidance, divine help from their own angels. So actually, we can ask on their behalf if they're in that kind of situation. So for example, if this person cannot ask themselves, or if they feel unworthy of such help, so um the way we can ask is by saying under the law of grace. Because when we say under the law of grace, it means without interfering with their free will. So whatever's best for them without necessarily impending or parang hindi mo matatapakan yung free will niya. So for the best of that person. So it can be done or for a child or yeah, for their highest good. So and especially for ourselves when we're trying to ask for help, we can easily ask for help directly from them. And so yeah, thank you so much, Garimal. The next thing that I want to share, like we mentioned in the poster, so I'll just briefly share about the hierarchy of angels. So we'll go through this quickly. Yeah. Okay, so there are several versions of this. Several saints came up with the different versions, but they are quite similar, most of them. And this is what's common among them. There's usually three parang divisions. So for example, this one. In terms of the hierarchy, there's the supreme hierarchy. So that's where the seraphim, the cherubim, and the thrones are. And you can see what particular aspect they are in charge of. So, of course, angels are not in physical form, right? So they are basically these beings in a different form, in a non-physical form. So they embody all these things. So for example, seraphim, yeah, pure love and light, cherubims, wisdom and knowledge, thrones, justice and fairness. So I used to also relate with the thrones because I used to work with in human rights and peace building work in Mindanao. So and there were also a lot of instances when I was in um, because I worked in conflict affected and calamity affected areas. So I really felt the divine protection because, for example, a calamity would happen. It would always usually happen after I left a place or before I arrived in the place. And there was even a particular time when we were in Cotabato, we were eating in a little store, and I suddenly had this urge to go back to the hotel immediately. So we walked, and upon walking several meters to our hotel, a bomb, an improvised explosive device suddenly went off. So if we did not leave that time, we could have been hurt. So these are really concrete examples of how they really communicate with us and they really are there to help, guide, and protect us. So middle hierarchy, dominions, virtues, and powers. So administration of God's will, courage, and miracles, heavenly order, and protectors. It's like basically their assignments. I cannot yet delve deeply into these because I personally did not deeply study these yet because yeah, I was content knowing that these were these were their assignments, but maybe eventually I can teach another session um, in more detail about these. And the lower hierarchies, which are the principalities, archangels, and angels. So principalities are in charge of religions, nations, and leaders. So for example, each country has a specific angel assigned to it. And each institution, and even this one I learned in pranic healing because there's our mentor one of the 8 master pranic healers around the world, Master Faith. She's a clairvoyant. She teaches applied spiritual technology, and one of the things she teaches is how to heal businesses, heal companies, heal houses that had experienced a lot of bad luck. So she really, one of the things she emphasizes is that we need to invoke on and work with the angels, and who are the beings in charge of an organization, in charge of, for example, a particular hospital, of a house. So that's how specific they are. So that's why we also have our own angels, our guardian angels for each of us. So, and for example, in nature, there are beings of the mountain, beings of the tree. So that's why the really sensitive ones, people, sometimes they get laughed at for hugging trees and trying to prevent the trees being cut, because they can see the beings. There's actually beings there that can, they actually will lose their homes once the trees are gone or the mountains are excavated and mined thoroughly. So that's why, it's all one of the consequences of our being disconnected with the spiritual realm is this: we don't realize how much we're also affecting these beings by, for example, when we treat nature just as resources to utilize and earn from, and we don't care if forests are cut, I mean, lots of trees are cut, cleared just for acres and acres of, cattle ranches. We don't realize how this tips off the balance, not just ecologically, but in terms of the spiritual realm. So that's how important our awareness is, and bringing back our connection with these beings are. So yeah, and archangels are, of course, God's emissaries. Our friend earlier mentioned she invoked on a particular archangel. So just to introduce some of the archangels, Michael, he's in charge of usually protection, and Gabriel usually is in charge of those related to creative stuff. So if you're a writer, if you're an artist, you can connect with Archangel Gabriel. And Raphael, of course, is in charge of healing. So if you need healing, you can invoke on Archangel Raphael. And those who work with children, you can invoke on Archangel Metatron. So they have specific assignments, basically. So if you know who to invoke on, that would be better. But in case you don't, you can just invoke for help in that aspect, and you don't have to call them by name. They will just be there. So of course we have the angels, guardianship, for guardianship service. We have the guardian angels. We have the angels for, like I mentioned earlier, basically everything. We have angels for everything. So I have this book. It's called Power Scripts. In this book, it also emphasizes, there's a lot of prayers here, and okay, better not say it aloud. And it's emphasized that you can, quote unquote, employ them. They actually like it when you ask them for help. Sorry, I saw a comment earlier. Okay, the energy of, okay, sure. All right. Okay, so now, since we are also trying to seek for guidance in our own lives. So we can invoke and pray by, we can, there. I think that will be later pala. Sige. So we'll move forward to the different signs. So these are some signs that your angel is trying to communicate with you. So one of them is the angel numbers. So if you see repeating numbers or repeating sequences, that's definitely from the angels. Another one is feathers. So if you see a feather, especially if it's from seemingly coming from nowhere, like you're in the middle of the city and there's a feather, that's definitely another sign. And specifically black feathers. Black feathers usually is a sign that it's okay for you to be different. So it's an affirmation. It's okay to be yourself. So feathers, because angels are usually associated with having wings. And angels are also close to nature and animals. And the next one are birds. So, so birds are also signs of having the spirit of a loved one nearby and also an angel. Butterflies. So usually butterflies would mean messages of transformation and a loved one telling you that they're now free from pain. And in terms of insects, if you see a dragonfly, it also means there's rapid transformation in your spiritual journey. Coins. If you see random coins around or when you're walking, so that's also another sign. And other signs from angels are if you smell particular scents, especially if you can associate that with something or someone, music, lyrics from a particular song that may be an answer to your question, or just music that you can associate with someone also in something. And of course, nature, animals, um, these are also manifestations of the angelic presence. If you notice, cats especially are very sensitive to energy, so they might come to you to soothe you if you're feeling some pain, and dogs also and other animals. Cloud formations and sometimes rainbow. You will see a rainbow after experiencing a very difficult time. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the extra sensory messages that you can perceive. So if you're clairvoyant, you can actually see them. If you're clairaudient, you can like hear, but it's not a physical sound. So claircognizance, knowing, just receiving messages. And you can determine your own way of recognizing them. For example, when I encounter them, I would know it's the angels because when we have goosebumps, we usually have it on our arms, diba, or in our body. But when I perceive angels, I really feel it parang sa spine. It's really sa spine. And when I hear something that's really true, that I perceive as true. Okay, so lastly, how do we know if what we perceive is coming from the light or from the angels, or if it's not, if it's from the ego? So the easiest way to know is how you feel about it. Usually it's if it's coming from the light or the angels, you feel light about it, joyful, and um if it's coming from the ego or from something else, you feel anxiety, fear, or irritation. And so yeah, usually if it's the angels, it's a space of, it's like you feel safe and loved, and there's warmness. Sometimes it's cool. Divine energy sometimes feels cold. I mean, parang cool na sa feeling. Pero sometimes it can be warm. So, yun. Those are the signs that they are communicating with you. Okay, so now we can ask them. We can all pray. You can close your eyes if you want. Inhale and exhale comfortably. And try to connect with your heart. The feelings of love, peace, and joy. Now you can ask your angel. Thank you, guardian angel, for revealing to me what I need to know, especially through this session today. Try to notice if you get a message, an image, words, a feeling, or if your attention is suddenly caught by a particular object, because these are not coincidences. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the divine healing, divine blessings, divine guidance, divine protection, divine illumination. With thanks and in full faith, so be it. All right. So you can keep the message and hold it close to your heart. So again, I honor and acknowledge each one of you who's here. Thank you so much for choosing you, and thank you for acknowledging our divine co-workers, the angels. May your journey be filled with lots of love, light, and joy as you serve other people through your gifts, your skills, your talents, and your mission. Thank you.
There's just one
Sige.
question. Raymundo said this even before your session. You answered the first one. His first question is, does each person have a guardian angel? And he said yes. The second question is, how do we communicate with our guardian angel?
Ayun. we can invoke on them, we can pray to them like we did earlier. So actually there are a lot of ways to connect. So when you pray, when you meditate, you tune in more to the divine guidance. So it may be through your angels, from God through your angels, or yeah, basically these two. When you connect with nature, when you take moments of silence, you can also perceive them. And basically, when we pray, like I said earlier, our words are very powerful. The moment we call on them, they're already there. Like that. Because they're not physical beings. So they don't have that limitation.
There's another question. Can you hear me?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. May I ask, how do you explain orbs in pictures? I read that lights or orbs in pictures can be perceived as angels, even the sound in video clips. Or dreaming of angels, what does it mean?
So yung orbs, some of them can be angels, some of them can be nature beings, but sometimes parang ano kasi minsan hindi yung iba kasi hindi na nila dinidistinguish yung walang distinction between angel ba yan, or I mean if ang isang nature being sometimes also is considered an angel pero iba lang yung assignment niya, parang ganun. Pero other people, they put distinctions na ito diwata to, dyan siya, iba yung angel sa diwata, parang ganun. So yeah, but basically yung orbs, these are beings. Beings of light. So usually we also play with those when we see them. We take pictures, a lot of pictures. Yun. You can also ask so that you know for sure. Like I said, we already know. So you just ask, and then you will receive guidance if it's an angel, if it's your angel, or if it's a particular being. Tapos ano pa yun? Dreams, of course. Yeah, I forgot to mention. They also communicate to us through dreams. So actually our angel guide mentor, Miss Princess Buendia, has advised us to keep a notebook beside our bed. And whenever we wake up, especially fresh from sleep, try to take note of our dreams. Because that's also one of the ways that we receive divine guidance, especially if we're in a good space when we sleep. So for example, if you prayed, if you meditated, and if you asked a question before you sleep, usually when you wake up, you would receive an answer. If you keep yourself open, and yeah, that's why it's important to meditate, or at least have a practice of being silent, meditating, and praying, because when you're able to remove all the clutter, so kung sa pranic healing pa, when your mental body is clear because you meditate frequently, you will have clarity of thoughts, and you will be able to receive divine guidance better. So, and then when you do creative stuff, so some people, they receive guidance through journaling. They just journal yung dire-diretso without thinking, and then they get surprised because the answer is already there for their inquiry. And sometimes when they draw, the symbols reflect messages. Would it be possible? Yeah. Would it be possible to literally hear a voice from angels? Yeah. When you develop your extrasensory perception, clairaudience yung tawag dun. So, ako personally, I'm not sure kasi kung how it is like to be clairaudient, but I receive messages, kaya yung session ko every Sunday sa OHC, Angel Whispers, kasi parang ganun eh. Tapos paulit-ulit yung message hanggang pag hindi ko pag hindi ko pinapansin, paulit-ulit siya hanggang pansinin ko siya. Like that angel whispers na every Sunday, palagi yung lumalabas sa akin. Hindi siya physical sound, pero parang ganun, parang may naririnig akong whisper. Tapos while I'm reading for people, ganun din. Kaya minsan makikita niyo ako pumipikit ako bigla. Tinatry kong pakinggan, quote and quote, pakinggan, ano pa yung additional na message. So, apart from yung nasa card. And the cards, actually, the magic is not in the cards, it's in us. The cards just mirror what's present in our life, and it helps us focus on the things that we already are perceiving, but we're trying to dismiss or we're doubting. So, kaya maganda din yung angel cards kasi specific siya. It helps us to affirm kung ano ba talaga. Minsan, kasi ang tendency talaga natin usually mag-doubt because of the way we were taught in mainstream schools, di ba? We doubt whatever it is that we can't perceive with our 5 physical senses. So, okay. Ayun. Chloe Malipol said, angel messages are like coming in like ideas. They're giving us information. We just have to believe. And so thank you so much, everyone. You can also type in your own insight or advice. Like I said, in case you did not catch the earlier part of this session, I mentioned that we're all equal. I'm not an expert. So it just so happened that I studied some of this, so I know some, but please do know that you already know. You just need to remember. And sometimes we just discount ourselves too much or we doubt ourselves, but if we just try to listen and tune in, we will receive the divine guidance.